Now let's look at one of the main processes of service transition, which is change management. I'm sure you've probably heard of change management, but what does it mean really, and how does it relate in ITIL? Change management is the process that controls the life cycle of all changes, enabling beneficial changes to be made with minimal disruption to IT services. Moving on to the objectives. The first objective is to respond to the customer's changing business requirements while maximizing value and reducing incidents, disruption, and rework. The second is to ensure that changes are recorded and evaluated and that authorized changes are prioritized, planned, tested, implemented, documented, and reviewed in a controlled manner. The last objective is to ensure that all changes to configuration items are recorded in the configuration management system. In terms of scope, change management covers all configuration items across the whole service lifecycle. Whether these configurations are physical assets, such as servers or networks, or virtual assets, like virtual servers or virtual storage, or even other types of assets, such as agreements or contracts. So let's look here at some of the key concepts of change management. To start with, let's look at the term change, and what does that really refer to? Change is the addition, modification, or removal of anything that could have an effect on IT services. The scope should include changes to all architectures, processes, tools, metrics, and documentation, as well as changes to IT services and other configuration items. Now the term change proposals. These are submitted to change management before chartering new or changed services to ensure that potential conflicts for resources or other issues are identified. When we say change requests, the request itself is a formal communication seeking an alteration to one or more configuration items. Great. Now that we've got a good understanding of a couple of key concepts of change management, we're going to move on to the different types of service changes. Now there's 3 types of service changes: standard, emergency, and normal. Let's look at the standard change. This is a pre-authorized change that is low risk, relatively common, and follows a procedure or work instruction. Every standard change should have a change model that defines the steps to follow, including how the change should be logged and managed, as well as how it should be implemented. Next, we have emergency changes. These are changes that must be implemented as soon as possible. And a normal change is any service change that's not considered a standard or emergency change. Now, change models is another important concept of service transition. Organizations will find it helpful to predefine change models and apply them to appropriate changes when they occur. So a change model is a way of predefining the steps that should be taken to handle a particular type of change in an agreed way. Now another important concept is remediation planning. This is considered a backup plan. No change should be authorized without having explicitly addressed the question of what to do if it's not successful. Ideally, there should be a backup plan that would restore the organization to its initial state, often through reloading baseline set of configuration items, especially for software and data. Only by considering what remediation options are available before instigating a change can the risk of the proposed change be determined and appropriate decisions made. Another important concept related to change is the Change Advisory Board. So this Change Advisory Board, or CAB for short, is a body that exists to support the authorization of changes and to assist change management in assessing, prioritizing, and scheduling changes. Now, the change manager will normally chair the CAB, and members include all potential stakeholders. Now, when the need for an emergency change arises, which means there may not be enough time to convene the full CAB, then it's necessary to identify a smaller board with the authority to make emergency decisions. This body is called the Emergency Change Advisory Board, or ECAB. So let's take a look at the activities needed in order to manage an individual change. You create and record the change request, review the request for change, assess and evaluate, authorize, plan updates, coordinate change implementation, and then review and close the change.